Hello everyone, I'm Ryan11 and today I will be making a follow-up on my PC part picking video that nobody of you watched, and I'll be going over the different sources for information on PC parts. So I'll be going from the bad sources like use benchmark here to the better sources, and I'll be giving you some basic information on what is good and what is bad. So first of all, we have user benchmark. User benchmark gets most of its basic information right, except for example here the price of the 5600X, because it uses eBay as a source, which can have scams or second-hand parts, I would imagine. So then we have the testing, which the sites do. There are a lot of sites that claim to have done performance testing, where they actually use specs, which can be compared, which is kind of silly, but this site actually tests performance. But in reality, their tests don't reflect reality at all. So here we see a comparison of the 11400F and the 5600X. In reality, the 5600X is usually like 15-20% better, but here user benchmark gives the 11400F a slight advantage even. But this is not just this comparison. There are a lot of ridiculous comparisons because user benchmarks tests are just not representative for actual usage, and they apply some stupid math which doesn't make any sense. So we also have some other stupid things. We can see here that they compare the specs like some other sites do, which is kind of stupid because they don't really indicate any performance. So why you would even put percentages here is kind of silly. But then the worst part of this site, probably after the testing, is their ridiculous reviews. You can, for example, see here in the description of the 5600X that despite a 15% deficit, get lower priced Intel parts. Well, on the left side here we have the best value Intel part, which is probably the best gaming CPU at the moment. But even then, you can see that they're equal, which is already bullshit. And then the site claims that it has a 15% deficit. So what you can already see is that even looking at user benchmark's own data, the reviews just make up data. And in addition, they will use some actual facts and make ridiculous conclusions. So, like, it uses too much electricity or it needs more cores. Well, those are some AMD fanboy claims sometimes, but that doesn't mean the CPU isn't mediocre or bad. Well, in this situation, the 11400F is actually better, but what user benchmark accuses people of is that because AMD fanboys spread false information, the Intel chip must be better, but user benchmark itself is making AMD look better by spreading misinformation on Intel chips as well, and skewing their data in their favor. So user benchmark just is an unreliable source for anything but basic information. But even then, there is a better source of basic information, namely the manufacturer sites. Here, for example, we have Intel's site on a processor and we have AMD's site on a processor. So what you can see that you have all this basic information, better overview. I don't really like the layout of AMD's site, but still then it has all the basic information put together into some unnecessary information, and AMD's layout is a bit less tidy than user benchmark, but in general, these are just the sources of the manufacturer. Why wouldn't you use this? And user benchmark is bullshit. So if you want basic information, just search the chip name and you will get the name. You will get the page from the manufacturer, and you can use this for basic information. That's a good source if you, for example, want to know the core count or the thread count, or if you want to know if you can overclock it or what socket it is. And that's basically all the information you probably need from here. Oh yeah, and their RAM support is kind of useful. So then on to the next source. Here we have PCPartPicker. In the last video I recommended this as a tool, but they also have recommended builds. Now, their builds are kind of ridiculous. Some choices are just bad, but even this page already shows that they have done something wrong. Namely that they sort on brand, which is just outright stupid, because they put everything as gaming and streaming, but then there are some stupid part choices. Like here on the top tiers, we have core counts that nobody needs, and we have editing video cards that nobody should ever buy. So like something more realistic as a max choice would be this PC, which could be decent. I haven't looked at it, but on the lower tiers especially, it's stupid to split it into brands, because you already specified that it will be for gaming. And what's even more ridiculous is that you put streaming as a separate usage if you can just use a cheap video card from Nvidia or even AMD and use video encoding and will have fine performance. So paying a lot more for streaming is just ridiculous, because basically every system can stream with modern parts. So that's kind of ridiculous. And the dividing on brands is bad, because right now for the lower tier, the 1100F is objectively better value than the 3600X. So it's just a stupid idea to split them into brands, because the 3600 is objectively worse, even if the prices end up being different. And then at the higher tier, it's stupid to go Intel unless you overclock. So only dividing on brand instead of usage, or listing any reason why you would go for this brand instead of the other, is just plain stupid. And if you go to the actual builds, you will still see like some bad choices, like this power supply, which is probably bad. This mediocre case, well, it's always your own opinion which case you want. And this optional cooler, which you could have listed. So this is just a terrible source. Even if it's only a mediocre list, one of these, there's really you really shouldn't use this page, because it's just so terrible. Now, some YouTube sources. First of all, we have Bitwit. So what you will see is some videos are actually useful, maybe a PC building video, just like with LTT, like we'll show later. But if you look at some of its videos, you can see, first of all, there are probably benchmarks where it has made up data, which is just a shady practice. This is just like LTT. This is a channel more focused on entertainment than actual testing. So what you will see is the actual testing will be trash or be using fake data. And if you build a PC, you will basically do it worse than basically anyone you can ask on the PC building Discord to do it for you. It's just entertainment. You shouldn't watch this for any actual information, except maybe how to build a PC. Then we have Linus Tech Tips. I had someone started playing. Well, this is another case of an entertainment channel, and what you will see is the testing. Some of it is accurate, but the coverage is just bad. There's a bit of AMD bias at Linus Tech Tips, because they used to be better. It's the same as Bitwit. You really shouldn't look at this channel for anything but entertainment, because their testing is, well, not questionable, but it's objectively a bad source for actual information, because it's completely focused on entertainment and getting views, like all the clickbait. Um, and it's stupid. But Linus Tech Tips does have some good videos, like how to build a PC and their PSU tier list, which I also showed in the last video, which can be useful. But again, it's mostly focused on entertainment, and entertainment sources are not that good usually. Then up to the next source, Hardware Unboxed. I already mentioned this as a source in the last video. I would say that most of its videos are reliable. Basically, some benchmarks are inconsistent, but in general, it's not a bad source. I would just personally not use it unless I need to verify other information because it's not the most reliable source. So then up to the top two, namely Gamers Nexus and Tech Power Up. Both are excellent sources, I think. Sometimes there's a bit of an, well, not of an entertainment aspect, but a bit of opinions because of the subject of new parts. But in general, this site, Gamers Nexus really has the best benchmarks. And I think you should stick to Gamers Nexus for news on new parts and benchmarks. Just those two are the main things you want if you want to pick parts for a PC. So then the last source is Tech Power Up. Tech Power Up also has good reviews, but it's in website form again, and it also has very good news articles on data, except it's more tech in general. What Tech Power Up is also excellent for is searching the power draw of a part. So if you have a video card and you want to know what the power draw is, just go to Tech Power Up, type in the name, and you will probably find a good graph that can let you make an estimate for your power supply choice. And then for the processor, you just take Gamers Nexus or also this site, and then you can make a decent power supply estimate. So those are all the sources I wanted to cover. So I would recommend Gamers Nexus mostly because Tech Power Up is a site, and Hardware Unboxed is basically covering the same things as Gamers Nexus, but a very slight bit less reliable. So yeah, I hope that was useful.